Well, hello and welcome to the Money Magpie podcast. If you're watching this podcast, don't forget to share and like and just tell everyone how fabulous it is, because, hey, you know it is. I'm Jasmine Birtles and I'm the founder of MoneyMagpie.com. And today I'm joined by the wonderful singer-songwriter Tom Speight. Now, if you haven't already heard Tom's music, go to his website, which is tomspeightmusic.com, and hopefully we'll be allowed to play a bit of it later in the podcast. Is that all right, Tom?
Yeah, sounds good to me, yeah.
Oh, great. Well, now, Tom, let's get straight into it, because you and I met on telly on a program, and we were talking at the time about the business of music. Now, you're doing what so many others would give their right arm to do. You're making money, making music. But is it as glamorous as it looks?
Yeah, it's glamorous as it looks. It's the weird thing, isn't it? Because I imagine a lot of people's perception of, musicians these days comes via social media.
Mm-hmm. And
I think obviously with social media, they kind of, you get the highlight reel of someone's life. Mm. But is it as glamorous as it looks? I feel very, very lucky to do music as a full-time job, because, for me, it isn't a job. So that's the biggest, reward there is, really. And as for the glam, there's definitely parts that isn't glamorous. Touring isn't particularly glamorous. Staying in, not very nice hotels and getting in late and, missing home and all that kind of stuff. But it's just such a privilege to kind of have music as your full-time job. I think that is to me, that's the biggest win. True,
but as a job, you're not 100% sure what money you're going to get, of course, because you can get amazing money. That we all see the big ones, the big glamorous musicians who make millions, literally millions. But how do you make sure that you can pay the bills, that you can pay your mortgage, that you can eat, etc., when your business is music?
I think you can never be too sure, obviously, with music. And it is, I think that's probably one of my biggest worries is, like, I suppose, just staying in the game of being a full-time musician, really. Mm. But, I've been doing music kind of as a full-time recording artist for nearly 7 years now. And I'm I'm just about to write and record my third album. And I think it's just, I'm constantly trying to grow the project, but not be ambitious with it, but not, my goal isn't to be Ed Sheeran, because there's only really one Ed Sheeran. Mm-hmm. And my goal is just to have longevity and, hopefully produce 10, 15 albums, and it is just about staying in the game. And I think if you constantly work hard and I think one of my strongest things is I have a very loyal connection with my fans. Mm. I like to think that my fans will stay with me, which they're kind of they're the reason I have a career. So yeah, it is very worrying to kind of stay in the game, but I think you kind of you live within your means. So obviously I have as my career has grown, I've recorded in like fancier studios like Abbey Road or in America and stuff like that. But I certainly didn't start off like that. I was recording in, smaller studios with a tighter budget. And as the project's grown, that's when I've increased to kind of, take it to the next stage, really. But I think you just got to keep working hard and not take it for granted.
Yeah. And obviously there are different things. I mean, you've mentioned albums. There are different elements to being a musician that will make money. So what do you think? Because I'm approaching it as a business here.
Yeah, sure.
Point of view. So I mean, you've mentioned albums. I'm guessing those sell. You make some money off those. There's Spotify and streaming. There's actual gigging. Yeah. Are there other elements at other places other ways to make money?
So I make predominantly most of my money from streaming platforms, which a lot of people, I think, always kind of a bit shocked about, because streaming in the papers and media is kind of perceived as they don't really pay you very much and all this kind of stuff. But for me personally, I set up my own record label and then I licensed my records. So I was kind of like the biggest stakeholder in my music, which is an amazing thing, and I feel very lucky that I was in that position where I could release music, and then people kind of, I don't know, reacted well to it. And then I was in a position where I could license it and grow it from that point of view. But other platforms where I suppose, just continued to make a living out of music is I had like 6 or 7 playlisted records on Radio 2, so you get the royalties from that.
Nice.
I was one of the most played artists on Love Island, so you got TV aspect. And then gigs, festivals, you know, I earn a bit of money from festivals. You know, when you came to see me in February, that I wouldn't, you know, people would have thought, oh, sold out gig in London. I actually made a loss on that gig because I try and put on a great show for my fans, which would have been, you know, a 5-6 piece band. And, you know, I like to treat them well, look after them. So there's definitely different ways you can make a living out of being a musician. I write for other people, so that's another thing, you know. And during lockdown, when obviously things dried up a little bit with the live performance, I went back to teaching guitar, you know, which is still for me music, and I find that, you know, highly rewarding as well. So I always just try and keep busy and make sure that I've got, you know, I'm constantly writing, gigging, and, you know, writing for other people, and then hopefully something will pay off. I did a few like cover versions of songs, which have kind of almost like you know, helped me make another record, which is kind of crazy, you know. But yeah, there's definitely other avenues, but you know, I've been doing music for 15-20 years, and I would say, you know, if you said to someone, you know, if you were setting up a business, you're not going to make money for the first 10 years, people will be like, I'm not signing up for that. So you've got to really, really love it. And you know, as I said earlier in your first question, I am, you know, extremely lucky. And I think because I love it so much, you know, it's a lot of people switch off after work, you know. I'm constantly thinking about songwriting ideas at midnight, all this kind of stuff. So it is kind of like, it's very consuming, but in a really great way, because I do love it.
Well, you say that you're lucky, but honestly, from what you've just said, it sounds to me that you really do work.
Yeah. It's you know, it's a job in itself, but it's a great job, you know. So
yeah, but then you've got lots of different streams. Is it right that if you write the music, you're more likely to make the money? Is that where a lot of the cash comes from?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I remember when I was growing up and people would say, oh, you know, make sure you write the songs and stuff. And I do obviously write my songs, but I think the way the world's going now, and I think it, you know, if you read the papers of like Taylor Swift, I think it's mainly about owning as much of your music as possible, because that's where, you know, you can make most of the money. And I think the amazing thing about like, you know, the internet and things like that is you're not so reliant on major labels to, you know, put your album in HMV, for example. You can just put it online, you know, you can listen to it at home within like, you know, an hour of me putting it upline or something, you know. So it's I think it's very liberating, and I think, you know, everything's kind of you know, you can get to your audience a lot quicker, so you don't need that big push of, you know, getting a big distribution deal so it can get into HMV, Tesco, all that kind of stuff to reach an audience. But I think the main thing is just, yeah, if you can own as much of your music as possible, like any product, I imagine, you know, I watch Dragon's Den and they're saying, you know, give up 30%, 50% of your business. And it's like, you know, if you can be, you know, own the most of it, that is, you know, the way you're going to see the rewards.
Well, yes, because you mentioned setting up your own record label, because, you know, I think I listen to that and I think, wow, you can set up your own record label. That surely that's a huge thing, but you're saying it like it's not so difficult to do. Is that right?
No, it's you know, obviously, you know, it's a similar thing of registering as a company and all that kind of stuff, the boring admin stuff. But you just work with like an online distributor. You set up a record label. You have to have obviously a pool of contacts if you want to get a TV plugger, radio plugger, booking agent, all of that kind of stuff. But you know, but you know, with music, it wasn't an overnight success. So I learned a lot along the way to get to that point where I was releasing my own music. And it's been a very like gradual thing. Like when I started when I first released on the label, it was just me and my manager, and I think maybe a press person. And then we kind of gradually built this bandwagon of just, you know, recruiting more and more people to the project. So yeah, I think it's always about just taking steps, but knowing you have a goal to reach.
It does sound, as you say, you really have to love it to be doing this, because if you didn't make any money for the first 10 years, that's tough. I mean, clearly you are now. The business is building up, which is great. Do you think it had its own momentum once you'd got some good stuff out there and enough people going, oh yeah, I like Tom Speight, whatever, it kind of creates its own momentum?
Yeah, I think we were, when I first released music, I came at a time when Spotify and things was really kind of, I suppose, reaching like the mainstream. Mm-hmm. And they were incredibly supportive of my music. And that was the big launch pad to kind of, for me to have a career, really. Yeah. It's, if I think back to when I first started, the only way people could have my music is if they came to my gig and I would sell it out of my rucksack kind of thing. Yeah. And now it's like, I'm less like a door-to-door salesman in that respect. And, we played Brazil, which was the only way people would listen to my music over there was things like Spotify. Mm-hmm. And we had like 500 or 600 people queuing up for my gig at Brazil. So that is kind of crazy, And my album isn't physically available over there. So it's purely on streaming. Huh. So I think we were very, very lucky with the time that I released my first single. It was when Spotify was growing, and I suppose grew with it, really.
That's excellent. I've heard that the Rolling Stones gig a lot, and I mean they're still gigging because they can control the merchandise, the income, and all that. Do you find that with gigging?
Yeah, I'm in a bit of a gripe with that as well, because I started gigging up again recently, obviously since the pandemic, and I don't think a lot of people know this, but when you sell at a venue, the venue takes 25% of your merchandise. Stuff like that kind of winds me up a little bit, because I'm selling my own physical merchandise myself, which I have to, it's very like costly process being on the road. So I think 25% seems like quite extortionate. So I don't know what the Rolling Stones do. I hope they're in a position where they can get a better contract than I would. But yeah,
it's possible. Yes, that they go. We're not coming unless we negotiate this down.
Yeah. It seems a bit. But I merchandise. God, if you're a fan of someone, please, go to their gig and buy something off the merchandise, because it really it can make or break an artist on a tour. You can come away, I'm going to lose money on this tour, or you could go and sell a load of t-shirts, CDs, etc., and you can come away, actually this tour made money, which is a huge difference.
So for somebody watching this thinking, I would really like to be singer-songwriter, or I would like to be a drummer, I'd like to have my own band, etc., what would your advice be in order to help them succeed in that as a business?
I think, everyone's path is different. My path took a long time, but I think it was just, where I think the songs were getting better and better as I was growing, with my, I suppose, my craft, really. But I would suggest, gig, get used to playing live. I think a lot of people just think, go on TikTok and, play a 30 seconds bit of a song and then become a pop star. I think it's highly the importance of gigging is so important. You have got to get out there. And then I also think my biggest strength is surrounding myself by good people. Like the guy that mixes my music calls me the Avengers, because he thinks I recruit the superheroes and stuff. Like Lydia, who's an amazing vocalist, or having a drummer, or having a great TV plug, all of those things. I think if you can surround yourself by good people that you like as well, that you get on with, because you're gonna have to spend a lot of time with these people. Yeah. And I think also just be with the financial element is try and live within your means. Don't spend too much money if you actually realistically not going to make it back, and take it as it comes. If you see more money coming in, then you think, okay, I can invest more into the project. But otherwise, my dad used to say I was becoming like a busy fool, because I was doing all these gigs and losing money, and it can get a bit you can kind of grow to thinking falling out of love with music in that part. So I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone, but I do think you need to be gigging as much as possible, but in a viable way financially.
Absolutely. And what's your next big event, or where are your big events? Where can we see you next?
I suppose it'll be the festival season, so we're announcing a few. We've announced a couple. We're doing it with some gigs with Texas.
Oh, great!
Fun, yeah. But we're announcing most of them actually in the next couple of weeks. So let's stay tuned on socials. But as for that, we've got I'm going to be releasing music from next month, which is kind of like a very acoustic EP, which is exciting and
lovely.
I always keep him busy. My aim in 2019 was to do 100 gigs, and we did that in 22 countries. And I think obviously I have to my goal is going to be slightly less because of the fact that we can't tour as much because places with they haven't quite got back to normal yet. So I'm hoping 2023 I'll be gigging again, and more overseas and stuff like that. So that'd be fun.
So to find out more, there's tomspeightmusic.com and which socials and what are the names?
So if you just go on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, any of those, just put Tom Speight Music, and it's all there really. I'm not the most exciting person to follow, but I'm trying to get better with that kind of thing, But no, there's no TikTok dances or anything like that going on yet.
Oh, it's probably a good thing. It's a slow burn. It's
yeah.
Whatever comes out is real. So that's really good to know. And yeah. Tom, what's your new record, and can we play it, or what music can we play here now?
I'm gonna suggest playing the title track of my second album, which is called Everything's Waiting for You.
Excellent. Well, we'll play that. Well, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much for being on and explaining to us the business of music.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too depressing, and honestly, it can happen to anyone. So I think as long as you work hard and just enjoy it, and that's the main thing. That's what life's about, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Enjoy what you do, and just try and do it as well as possible to make some cash out of it, so that you can keep doing it, basically.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. I've been talking to singer-songwriter Tom Speight, and you can find out more at tomspeightmusic.com. And thanks for joining us on the MoneyMagpie podcast. Don't forget to share and like and generally gush about us. You want to.
Everything's waiting for you.